Hey there, it's Craig Nakamoto, and I just wanted to talk about one of my current projects, which started with a treehouse that I built when we moved into our house, our current house here 10 years ago. And sometimes it's fun to look back at a project and see, how it stood the test of time. In this case, time was not too gentle, as we can see here. So I'm going to walk through the project sort of from the beginning until where I am right now. The interesting part is this reciprocating roof that I built on the current structure, and I'll talk about that a little more at the end of the video. So our story begins, about 10 years ago. We bought a house in Huntsville, and there was a big elm tree, elm or ash, I'm not sure which, probably ash actually, in our front yard, and it was completely dead when we moved in already. There were no leaves on it, and it was kind of leaning over two hydro lines. So luckily the hydro company agreed to cut it down, which is what we're looking at right here. And they also agreed, even though they normally don't do it, they normally cut it right down to the ground. They allowed me to spray paint a line on the trunk, and they only cut down to that line because I was hoping to build a tree house. Now, one of the most difficult things about building a tree house is taking into consideration the tree's growth. Of course, in this case, the tree was dead, and we didn't have to worry about that. So that really simplified the design. So as you can see here, I kind of built it so that the two trunks of the tree would be inside the tree house. The floor is attached directly to the trunks, and then the roof is actually sitting on top of the trunk. So it's being supported, there you can see how it's being supported. The walls are just 2x3 framed walls, and I used the cheapest, boards I could get. The roof around the top is a flat roof, but then I did the mansard type roof, which is similar to what we have on our house. And I wanted a green roof, so those are 2x10 boards went across the top to make sure that it was really strong and it would hold the weight of all that soil and vegetation. Here's a first crack at putting some vegetation in. So the roof is on a slight slant to the back, and then there's a drain that goes into a little eaves trough that drains out the back. Kids used it for quite a few years. They had sleepovers and they would play in it. There's a view from our porch, and that's the treehouse down there. It was a fun project, and we got quite a bit of use out of it. The last couple of years it hasn't been used that much, but it really stood the test of time, and you can see in a few of these pictures that we got some pretty serious snow loads on there, and I did end up putting quite a bit of earth and stone on the top. There was a small spruce tree that actually grew quite large before the tree fort fell over. So apart from the green roof, and I did quite a bit of experimentation with that, we also built a pretty cool floor at one point, my son and I. It's an end grain floor. We actually cut up a lot of the branches that came from that tree, and I also just cut up some scrap lumber that I had, and we glued it all down onto the floor, and I just put some sawdust and some glue together and filled all in the cracks, and it lasted pretty well until the end of the treehouse, which came last year, as a matter of fact. So I really thought the tree was going to hold together since it was completely covered, but eventually the dry rot weakened it, and I could tell that it was starting to list to one side. Here's a bird's eye view. You can see the tree fort in the bottom right there with the green roof. So we woke up last summer one morning to the sound of a huge crash, and you can see the trunk just broke right across. It feels like concrete. The outside is still hard as rock, but the inside obviously rotted right out. So I was pretty amazed at how well the fort fared. You can see it fell down, landed on the edge. The roof blew right off and landed upside down. I disassembled the walls. Most of it was attached with deck screws, which made it really easy. I removed all the walls. That one wall got somewhat damaged, but apart from that, everything was, the floor was solid, and I did end up completely reusing the floor. So I think the most interesting part of this project, apart from the fact that I was able to reassemble most of the walls and put them all back up, was the roof. And when you have an octagonal structure or a circular structure, one of your options is a reciprocating roof. It's not very common, but it is a fascinating architectural design. Basically, you start with one beam that runs from the middle of the roof out to the side, and you support that with, just a post or something. Then you lay the beams down one on top of the next until you get to the last beam, which actually rests on the first beam. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it, but the structure is self-supporting. So it's not, you don't, like for example right here, they don't have to be attached to the walls. The structure will stand up by itself. You could use chopsticks and build one on your counter if you're careful. And when you push down, it doesn't flatten out, it holds its shape. This is built with pressure treated 2x4 boards. The previous flat roof was 2x10s, probably 10 or 12 inches apart, so basically indestructible. So it's going to be really interesting to see how well this roof holds up. And I've purposely used small lumber, inexpensive small lumber, just to see how well it would work. Now it has already gone through one winter with an exceptional amount of wet snow load twice during the winter we had, and it held up just fine. So as you can see, I basically just grabbed every scrap piece of wood I had in my garage to put on top of that roof, and then I sealed it all in, and I'm just in the process of adding the topsoil and the earth, and so I can get some plants in place before the winter. Anyway, that is the reciprocating roof. Just post any comments if you have any questions, and I will keep you guys posted, and we'll see how this thing holds up. As I say, it's already gone through one winter, and no problems so far. I may even do some more experimentation of what to plant on top, but I did find in the end that a lot of the stuff that grows on the ground does not grow on a green roof. And I guess it is kind of a different environment. Thanks for listening to my latest project update, and I am heading out east in a week, so I should have another video on the A-frame shortly.